Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this afternoon in such large numbers. I'm Head of the Communications and Marketing with Rehab Group, of which National Learning Network is a division. We're delighted to have you with us today as we explore how to create meaningful opportunities for neurodivergent people in education and employment. The need for change is clear, with only 33% of people in Ireland with disabilities are currently in employment. That's compared to an EU average of 51%. So that's a gap that we can and we must close. So today's event is about shining a spotlight on practical solutions with insights from expert speakers, employers, and some inspiring personal stories. We'll hear how NLN has been supporting hundreds of neurodivergent individuals, including people with autism, dyslexia and dyspraxia, ADHD, to build independence, grow confidence, and take their next steps into higher education, further education, or meaningful employment. We're especially proud to showcase today's success stories like Dylan Flanagan from Waterford, whose journey of a little uncertainty after school has now turned into thriving as a journalism student and writer, and also working with Mr. Price. There's proof of what's possible with the right supports. Also, the programme features perspectives from leaders in the field, including Rita Guignon, Principal Psychologist at Rehab Group, who brings over 20 years' experience in mental health and disability support. Adele McSorley is here from Operations Manager at Mr. Price, who will share how inclusive recruitment has become a cornerstone of their thriving workforce. And Anne-Marie MacDonald, NLN's Head of Service and Programme Design, who brings deep expertise in disability inclusion and vocational rehabilitation. Before we begin, a quick reminder that the session will run until about 3, and we have a Q&A box that you'll see come down the side of your screen soon. And please put your questions in there, and we'll put them to the expert speakers at the end and try and get to as many as we can. So with that, let's get started. It's my pleasure to introduce Rita as our first speaker, who will take you through her decks. And don't forget to take control of the decks there, Rita. You can fire away. Thanks a million.
Thanks very much, Adele. Okay, is that looking okay? Can you see my presentation? Great. Well, it's absolutely lovely to be here with you this afternoon, and it is an absolute pleasure for me to be asked to introduce the work that we do in NLN and explain a little bit as to how we support our fabulous students who are neurodivergent in NLN. So you will see on my title page here that I have mentioned very briefly that we consider different brains not being deficient brains. And that is a key message that we operate to, and a principle that we operate to in NLN. So the format of my 15-minute session is very straightforward. I'm going to open with a brief introduction to what our brains do. So what is the function of our brain? What is neurodiversity? How does NLN support neurodivergent students when they come to us? And I will talk a little bit about our neuro-inclusive practices, the NLN psychology service that I am extremely proud to be part of. And I will take you through a real-life example of how we supported a fabulous neurodivergent student who came to us for support a number of years ago. So this infographic is one of my absolute favourites, and it demonstrates how valuable different kinds of brains are. And this infographic very clearly states that thinking differently requires different thinkers. If we didn't have different thinkers in this world, our world would become very boring. We would forget how to problem solve, and we would get very stuck. So it's very important as educators and as supporters of neurodivergent people that we're very aware that all of our brains are very different. All of our brains come into this world and experience this world in different ways, and we have to accommodate and find out ways of making each of our brains as comfortable as possible when they come to us in NLN. So important for us to start at the beginning and wonder about what are all the jobs of the brain. So you know that you have a brain. I know that I have a brain, but I wonder, have you spent much time thinking about what your brain actually does for you on a day-to-day basis? I suppose at the outset, it's really important to say that this is one of the least understood human organs, one of the most important human organs that we have. Without our brains, we wouldn't have much humanity, because it's the way that we process information and the way that we communicate with one another is determined by our brain structure. So the way our brain is structured influences many things about us, including how we experience and interact with our surroundings, how we process and retain information, how our bodies move, how we problem solve, communicate, form relationships, and develop interests. So as educators, we're extremely interested in wondering how each of our students' brains functions and how it's structured, and what can we do to make it as comfortable as possible so that it can learn to the best of its ability. So while I was thinking about this presentation, I wondered about my own brain, and I thought it might be helpful for me to give you an overview of how the structures in my brain influence who I am. And I'd invite you to think about the structure of your brain and how does it influence you, and perhaps how did it influence your needs when you were going through education yourself. So my brain is structured in a way that allows me to be creative. My brain is neurotypical, which means that it is similar to the majority of brains out there. It's not the same, but it's similar, so it's quite typical. It's a curious brain, but it's a brain that likes variety. It's a brain that really enjoys messing. It's a brain that enjoys sitting on a step each morning to ground myself. My brain allows me to be very serious when needed. It allows me to be a psychologist, a gardener, a nature lover, a researcher, a reader, a lover of islands, and also a mammy of 2 teens, one of whom is neurodivergent and one of whom is neurotypical. So the way my brain is structured influences how I parent those children and how I operate in the world, and yours is the very same. So I would invite you to have a little think about that, and how does your brain influence your experience in the world? So when we think about neurodiversity, it's a big word for a simple idea, and that simple idea is that neuro is brain, diversity is a range of different kinds. So neurodiversity really speaks to the fact that the world is full of different kinds of brains. It includes all of us, and it includes neurotypical people and neurodivergent people. And these are loose statistics, but approximately between 10 and 15 and up to 20% of the population is neurodivergent. And this group will be the focus of the rest of our presentation. So Edel mentioned the kinds of conditions that people might reference as being their neurodivergency, such as ADHD, autism, dyspraxia, dyslexia, and we would commonly see these types of learners and students come through our doors. So how do we support neurodivergent students in NLN? Well, I will help you understand how we support our lovely neurodivergent students. We have a neuro-inclusive practice in NLN. It's in our attitude. Our attitude is a very positive one when it comes to neurodivergence. We understand and accept that there are different types of brains. As staff, we expect difference. We absolutely value difference, and we really welcome difference when it comes to people's brains. We try to avoid neuronormative expectations, so we certainly wouldn't expect that everybody would behave in a quote-unquote neurotypical way. So we expect that people will experience the world in a vast variety of different ways. We don't talk about people as being high or low functioning in NLN. We talk about people as having high or low support needs. So a story that I like to tell to explain the difference between both of these ideas and the problem with describing somebody as being either high or low functioning is that if you took me and put me on a football pitch, if you put me in Croke Park on All-Ireland Football Sunday, and you asked me to participate in that match, you would absolutely say that I was a very low-functioning human. because I'm not very good at soloing the ball. I'm pretty good at running, but I wouldn't absolutely be able to keep up with any of those fantastic athletes that entertain us week in, week out during the championship. So you would determine that I was low functioning if that was the only barometer that you were using. So if you put me in my local lake, which is very black, very cold and very deep, and asked me to swim a kilometre or 2 kilometres, you would go, God, she's pretty high functioning. So on what basis are we determining that somebody is high or low functioning? So when I go on the football pitch, I have high support needs. When I go into the lake, I have low support needs. Equally, we have students who might have a degree in whatever subject they're interested in. They've managed to get an academic qualification, but they find using public transport really difficult. So is that person high or low functioning? Well, actually, they're neither. They're an academic person who has a high support need when it comes to using public transport. And it's really important to remember that distinction. So our attitude in NLN is one that accommodates those differences. We've moved away from asking what's wrong with this brain to asking what does it need to thrive? What does it prefer, and what kind of environment does this brain need to feel at ease? So in NLN, we consider the social environment that we provide. We consider the physical environment that we provide, the activities that the instructors organise for our students to help them learn, and we also consider psychological support. Unfortunately, we do know, statistically speaking, that neurodivergent people experience much more mental health difficulties than neurotypical people. So as a psychology service, we would see some neurodivergent people requiring additional help in that regard. So it's important to give you an understanding of what we do in our National Psychology Service in NLN. So I'm delighted to introduce to you what we do. We have a fabulous team of psychologists working very hard around the country with our students. And we provide one-to-one support to students who may experience mental health difficulties in the areas of anxiety, depression, relationship, friendship difficulties, confidence issues, gender identity issues, addiction, emotional regulation issues, self-harm, and suicidal ideation. We provide specialist training to staff on neurodiversity, affirmative practices and other related topics, and we provide training to groups of students as required. We provide clinical guidance to staff to help meet the individual needs of students, and we supervise a wonderful team of rehabilitation officers who play a crucial role in student support and advocacy in each centre. And we're also involved in referring students for external help if what they need goes beyond what we do in NLN. So I'm going to introduce you to a fabulous student that I had the absolute pleasure and honour of working with a couple of years ago. We're going to call her Jenny today. And Jenny came to us when she was 16. She was academically very able. She was autistic. She was bullied significantly at school. She regularly self-harmed. She had significant anxiety. She was under the care of her GP for her mental health. She was afraid to go to school and in fact didn't go to school. She had one friend who was very loyal. She had an absolute love of animals and she had a great family support. So what did Jenny need to thrive? Well, what Jenny needed to thrive was for us to provide her with a social, safe and caring place. We needed to move at Jenny's pace, which was slow and slower. We had an initial meeting with Mum and Jenny. Jenny didn't speak in this meeting really, but she did tell us that she wanted to come to us. We had initial short appointments through her mum's car window with myself or her instructor because she was afraid to come into the building because it reminded her of school. We gradually moved towards meeting in the building. We involved our instructor from the very beginning, and our instructor was so kind and gentle and gave clear instructions to Jenny that she found easy to follow. So we listened carefully to Jenny, and we knew that we had to show her that we were listening by doing what we promised that we would do. We created connection with other helpful staff to support Jenny. We shared with Jenny that we have a zero tolerance of abuse or bullying. We let Jenny dictate the pace of progress. So when she would go to the training room for the first time, for how long would she stay, where would she sit, what would she do if she became overwhelmed. And these were things that she worked with me on prior to agreeing that she would go to the training room. We let Jenny know that if she didn't like the course, that she could leave. So in terms of physical supports for Jenny, we made sure that she was seated at the door in the training room to allow for easy escape, and they were the words that she needed. We facilitated her arrival into the training room prior to anyone else, and that was because she felt when she went into the classroom that everybody looked up and stared at her, which of course, if they did, it wasn't intentional, but her comfort told her that she needed to be there first. And as I said to her, so that she could stare at everybody else coming into the room. So that was a good learning for her. We offered her a wristband that she could wear to show her instructor that on days when she wasn't able to talk out loud. We provided her with a quiet place to eat because that was something that was tricky for her. We provided her with lots of ideas as to how she could manage her overwhelm and her anxiety in the classroom, such as using music, art, and fidgets for her sensory seeking. She had short, regular meetings with me. I involved her in finding her own solutions. We acknowledged how difficult it was to relearn how to trust an educational setting. Jenny needed assurance that her response to being bullied and her response to feeling isolated at school was entirely usual, and that she wasn't the first person, and she definitely wouldn't be the last person to respond by self-harming. But what she did do was learn how to manage new ways to manage these difficult feelings, and she learned alternatives to self-harm, which was crucial to her mental health. So I'm conscious of my time, and I'm just going to finish on the outcome that Jenny had. And it's that Jenny doesn't self-harm anymore. Jenny has successfully completed her FETAC Level 4 course. She has her eye on a new course, which is fabulous. She feels more at ease and confident in herself, and she has regained her trust in education. And one of the things that Jenny has mentioned to me on numerous occasions, that one of the things that really made her believe that this was an okay place for her to come was that she could absolutely be herself, and there would be no pressure put on her to be anything other than who she was. So hopefully if you choose to come to us, or if your loved one chooses to come to us, that they will tell a similar story. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Rita. That was a really excellent presentation. I think really brought home the holistic supports we provide as well. So thanks so much for that. So next up we have Anne-Marie MacDonald, NLN's Head of Service and Programme Design. If you want to take control of your slides there, Anne-Marie. And you're on mute.
I'm not just seeing the show control coming up for me just yet. It's not on top. There, I have it now.
Okay, can fire away, so.
That's brilliant. Okay, so I just need to go down through a few slides at the moment. It's just at the start again. So is that showing just my title slide now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. So I'm delighted to talk a little bit more about National Learning Network. And we've lots of people from all around the country. So we're going to try and cover it from kind of a little bit of a helicopter view. But we also want to say to everybody that you're so welcome after this to connect with us and come into our centres. So really, that's what we'd hope for today. That if you're a student, if you're a family member, or perhaps OT, social work, or whatever that you feel, you can pick up a phone, drop an email to us and come in. So let's start a little bit about it. So you'll see here from the map, you will see that we have locations in every single county. So wherever you are, we hope there's a national learning network that's quite close to you. We have 34 main training centres, and we also have satellites and hubs. So we've about 55 locations around the county. We're in cities, we're also in more rural locations, and we're primarily funded by the ETBs. So we will give you contact details, and we hope to see you in some of our centres just to talk to us and learn a little bit more about the centre that's close to you. So around the country, we have a comprehensive suite of programs. We've about 40 different types of programs in further education and training. And all our courses have a really strong focus on employability. And one of the ways that we focus on employability is through work experience placements. And we work with employers of all sizes. And work experience placements is not just for students who say initially, I really want to work. Work experience placements are a really great way for you to learn a little bit more about different jobs and different occupations. And we always say as well, they're a good opportunity for you to find out what you don't like, because that's really great for helping in making decisions. All our courses offer pathways to further education and higher education and into apprenticeships. Certifications appropriate to the labour market. And what we mean by that is the certification that you achieve in National Learning Network, employers want it and they recognise the value of it. It's also appropriate to students' needs. It follows on from certification that you may have achieved in school. And also, it doesn't matter if students haven't achieved certification previously. We really encourage lifelong learning, and we love when people start that learning journey with us. All our qualifications are aligned to the framework, National Framework of Qualifications, so they're credible, and you can achieve qualifications from level 1 to level 5 with us. And focusing a little bit more on what Rita spoke of as well, some other things that are unique to National Learning Network is those comprehensive student supports. And if we reference back to the talk about how psychology supports us in our daily work as staff and as students, we have small class sizes, which is great for more individualized attention when you're learning, but also small class sizes can be useful if you're just joining a course and helps maybe make some more friends more easily when we have smaller classes. And continuous intake is something that's very special as well. No need for the wait for the start of a term. If you feel you're ready and you want to pick up the phone or come in and talk to us, we're ready to talk to you. And we think about what Rita says, at your pace, we're ready for you to start at a time that suits you. So because we've got a lot of people from all around the country, I'm going to give just kind of headlines on some of our programs. So we have programs that work with people when perhaps you're not so clear on your vocational direction. So some of these are called Skills for Life, and they're like foundation studies. And we recognise as students, some people don't come to us initially because they have a particular job area that they want to work into, a particular course. And it might be about some other areas that are impacting on their ability to be more independent or to move on with their studies. So what we do is we support people in areas that might be like support around managing your health and well-being, managing travelling independently, managing your finances, learning how to advocate for yourself, learning how to manage your money independently. So lots of really great skills there. And one of our students actually, we're not showing his little media clip today, but when he speaks about it, he said, I got so much better at adulting, like doing all those things I didn't have to be reliant on my parent for, or that I didn't have to be asking somebody else to look. So I got better at adulting in that course. So we also have vocationally specific courses, retail, and we've Mr. Price here today to talk about some of our student pathways in there. Catering and hospitality, sports, horticulture, performing arts is one of our new courses in our college that's just opened in Ballyfermot, computer programming, business studies, creative media, and I like to talk about employer-based training. Sometimes as a student you might have an occupation or a career interest that's really quite unique. And we can work with you to identify perhaps an employer who will help us put a bespoke training package in place with you to let you follow that unique aspiration you have in a particular career area. And you'll just see some snapshots here Some of our units, we have catering units within some of our training centres. There's some of our students on Sporting Chance that were doing sea kayaking, some talented students as well who were in windmill studios recording music, and just some of our spaces. While it's a vocationally training space, you can also see it supports some people in sensory regulation if they want to take a little bit of time out. Some of our centres have really nice spaces inside and outside that support that. So how is it all possible? Well, each person coming in, there is a team that you will work with, and it's a team where you will have an instructor, and they're like one person that will be there to support you in your planning, your go-to person. We also have resource teachers, and they're there to support you in literacy or numeracy skills development. Rita talked about the psychologist and rehabilitation officer and how they support you, but our rehabilitation officer is there for helping you with planning and support, and also to help you to advocate or to advocate on your behalf if you need it. We also, at times, while the planning process is owned by you and everybody is an adult and makes decisions when they come in, you may like to invite other people into your planning process. And that's okay, as long as it's your choice. Somebody might invite in family, a circle of support, or some other professional who's helping them in another area. And of course, we all have managers in all our centres, making sure it's efficient, effective, safe and person-centred services that are operating in each location. So this is all the team behind that really makes an effort to ensure that our centres are inclusive and there's that belonging. And as Rita said, nobody needs to mask when they come to us. Everybody comes to their authentic self, and we work from there. Shona is an ex-student of ours who's now working in the arts community, but I want to just share her voice. She gave us permission to share her voice because it talks about it from a student perspective, which is really helpful. So Shona talking about how National Learning Network has supported her.
Well, it's fundamentally changed my life is one thing. I don't think I'd be where I am right now without it. And it is such an interesting and quite a fun environment to be in at times. Like, again, there's this wonderful sense of community, and it's also providing like an amazing education is one thing I find for me anyway. Like, big part of it for me is being with my community every day.
So Shona, I think it just echoes some things that myself and Rita have already spoken about as well, like education and training. That is important that she talks about in her journey, but the other part is about that belonging and being herself, and all her strengths being recognised and celebrated as well. So the next bit I just want to look at is just a little bit more on what Rita was talking about. It's National Learning Network is way more than education and training. And there's lots of places you can go if it's just accredited learning that you want. But with National Learning Network, we work with the whole person. So sometimes there's other areas of your life where something is impacting on your ability to learn or your ability to think about your next steps. And that's what we're here for as well. So at times it's somebody who's saying, I need a little bit of support. My housing situation is changing. Can you help me connect with that? For some other people, as Rita said to some other people, it's, I'm quite lonely when I leave here, but is there any way you can help me develop skills that perhaps I could manage relationships better or make friends? For other people, I haven't studied before. I need skills to help me learn to learn. So these are all areas that are unique to each person. Your plan is known to you and the people you choose for it to be known to within the centre. And they're the areas I think that make us a little bit special. When you think about our small classes, you think about the team, you think about the planning that goes on. And in addition to all that, there's education and training and pathways into further education and employment. I'm going to end with Tariq. I'm going to share with a story from Tariq, who has talks about independent travel. And that was one of the areas within his plan that he wanted to focus on.
Last year we went to Edinburgh, so we went around the airport. We did a Dublin airport trial. I never went to the airport on my own, so it teaches you that from that aspect, like go to security on your own, booking your ticket on your own, getting assistance on your own.
So thanks for Tariq for putting it into words about kind of one of the things that was most important to him in the course was not just the education and training, it was the aspect where he got to focus on something that was really important to him and bring that through. So I'm going to end there just by saying we'd love to meet you in our centres, whether you're a prospective student, family member, circle of support, or professionals working in the field. Drop us an email, give us a call, and we can connect you with the local centre and be able to answer any questions that you might have. So I'm going to finish there, but I'll be back a little later for some other conversations. Thanks, Edel.
Okay, thanks very much, Anne-Marie. That was great. I know that some people were telling us they're having issues with audio there in the video, just to say we'll share them. We'll share them afterwards with anybody who's interested, and on the final recording they'll be there. So apologies for anybody who had issues there. So now on to Dylan Flanagan, our former student, who's going to give his first person piece about how NLN had supported him to get to where he's doing today. So you're very welcome, Dylan. You want to unmute and work away? I think you're muted there still, Dylan. No, good. Okay, so maybe we'll just pop, if you can try and work that out in the background, maybe we'll just go straight to the conversation with Edel and Anne-Marie, perhaps, and just give Dylan a minute to try to work out what's happening there with his audio. So Edel from Mr. Price, who's going to have a conversation with Anne-Marie about inclusive recruitment and the partnership between NLN and Mr. Price, just while we let Dylan sort out his audio.
Perfect.
Okay?
Perfect. Edel, you are so welcome, and thank you for joining us today. And we already feel like you're part of the team, even though we introduced you as the Director of Operations in Mr. Price, but you're part of the team. I'm going to ask to share one image which I want to share so that you can talk around it. I don't know, Louise, if you were able to share the image that we have of one of our students who helped with Edel to break some boundaries around how she does it. Edel, I am going to let you start by talking about DJ.
No problem, Anne-Marie. Thank you, and all the team. Thank you very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. And of course, I just love our partnership. This is DJ. DJ is from Kerry. He came through a National Learning Network work experience program. And in the early days, DJ was very frightened of the working environment because he'd never been in work experience before. So this was all very brand new. But he took to it with like a duck to water, and he had a lovely buddy who helped him through his initial fears. And when DJ came close to the end of his work experience, he wanted to stay on, and he decided to write us a poem instead of a CV, because DJ didn't feel a CV was going to do him justice. He didn't feel his personality would come across in those words of black and white on a piece of paper. So he wrote us the most beautiful poem with illustrations to say what his job means to him and why he would like to stay on. So of course DJ got to stay on straight away. And throughout DJ's time with us, I think he might be now 2 to 3 years with us. He writes us poems all the time to tell us how he's feeling and how we can express changes in the business and how what the business looks like to him in words. So you'll see in the picture there that a few months ago, we were really proud to launch DJ's first book of poetry. So it's very special.
Dream, reach, do is what DJ says and what he lives by every day. But we just wanted to start talking from that, like, because that was a big change within Mr. Price and their flexibility in recruitment. So just for people who may not know as much about our partnership, we've been working together like informally for like well over 10 years, but kind of about 8 years ago, we formalized it. And hundreds of students from National Learning Network have got work experience and started their careers, not just in the 70 shops around the country, but also in warehouses and in HQ. And one of our ex-students was one of the first interns in IT. So it's that flexibility in recruitment practices. Edel, I think you've changed, though. There's even more change in it. Like what our students say to us is they really like when they apply for a job with yourselves because there's no have to have a CV. So would you mind sharing a little bit about kind of the other flexible options you have? Outside of poetry, there's other ways
Yeah.
you can apply for jobs.
Absolutely. It really just depends on the individual and what your level of creativity is or how you express yourself. So for some people, they will give us a CV. Obviously, DJ gave us the poem, which we loved. We've had videos, we've had pictures drawn, and we've had students come in just to meet the team, just to say hello, and just to say, I would really like a job with you. And we also have a very simple form that can be filled out with just the basic details, and then we will contact the person to see how would they like to be interviewed. And we don't like a formal interview because I don't think anybody really does. So we make sure our interviews are very personal, that they're very informal. They can be a walk around a store, they can be, you can have a cup of tea, or we can sit down and have that little informal chat just to see what's your interests and what would you really like to do in Mr. Price and how can we help to develop you.
And Edel, like from our staff and students, like they will feedback like that's a game changer for some people, because sometimes it's not the actual job or doing the job that's the barrier. A person knows they have the skills, they know they would be amazing, but it's sometimes there's such rigidity in applications on what you must do to get that job that it rules you out before you've ever had the opportunity to show your amazing strengths. There's one other area that it's really interesting for us, because I suppose we work with so many employers and we're all trying in different ways to be flexible, but like you really are living that strengths-based approach. Like as an industry partner, you really come to the table with the strengths-based approach. We are very fortunate, obviously, to have you in your director position, a leadership position to support change. Stephen Brosnan, who hates attention, is the DEI officer, the diversity, equality and inclusion officer, and he's our point of contact for National Learning Network across the country, who we contact if a student wants a work experience placement, if they're ready to transition into a job. So we make contact. But the first thing that happens when we make contact, whoever makes contact, is the first thing that says, he says, how can I help? What can I help with? But the next question is when we say, Edel would like a job. What's Edel's strengths? The other questions are, is there a particular location Edel would feel more comfortable in? Tell me, is there times or is there days of the week that might suit her better? And also it's like, can you tell me things that Edel might seek out in the environment? Can you tell me things that she'd like to avoid in the environment? So for us, it's like done in such a warm and welcoming way, but he just captures that strengths-based approach and lives neuroaffirmative practices. Edel, how difficult is that, or what has been so successful for you, like that you've filtered that through your entire operations around the country, that strengths-based, approach to how, when you meet a job seeker, that's what everybody's go-to is.
Yeah, I suppose the first thing there is, Anne-Marie, we ask every day, how can we do better? Is there an improvement today that we can make our business better and make us better as an employer and as a retailer? But the really important piece here is we learn this through the National Learning Network students. So in our early days of the business, we genuinely believe, like a lot of other businesses still believe, that everybody needs to know how to do everything. So when we brought students in for work experience, that was the beautiful thing that we learned, was that we don't need to know how to do everything, but we need to know how to do some things really well. And then when we can do that, our colleagues come together as a better team, so they work together. And that that was the learning out of National Learning Network, and that's where the strengths-based approach came from. So I love to do things when I'm up and going and moving around, not sitting at a table. So why would I be put at a table when that's not where my skill set is? So we learn that. So we match, we do job carving, which we learned from National Learning Network, but we do it across the board. And what comes out of this, Anne-Marie, is that when we make a change for our neurodiverse colleagues, it works for absolutely everybody in the business. So that's then the change throughout the business. So we really got so much strength from having diverse employees and having colleagues with differences coming into the organisation to teach us.
And Edel, one of the other things as well is I think we love as well that, you know, staff share with our students sometimes as well, you included things that make work easier for them, or things I would not be able to do my job if not. I know we speak about it a lot, but one of our first students who went out on a work experience placement was avoiding going on the till. And we knew it wasn't something to do with skills because they were there. We knew it wasn't to do with, yeah. And it turns out it was just that beep, beep, beep was just meant that the person was probably going to wear their noise cancelling headphones or ear defenders and didn't want, you know, customers to be talking or to be looking. And Edel, it was you that went in and said to the person, I can't do my job without my glasses. If that's what you need to do your job, we will support you in whatever way. She also even said, if that's not the type of customers that we want coming in here, if you're not accepting of change. So it's, I think as well, your approach to reasonable accommodations. But Edel, there's lovely examples as well of people who've had reasonable accommodations in place and supports fade over time just because of how you work as a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that, say, if using the ear defenders as an example, that first of all, the colleague thought they weren't allowed to wear them. So you make that really, really loud and clear across the business that whatever you need is what you need, and we'll accommodate and we'll find a way around it. But we have seen colleagues that have used the ear defenders on the shop floor and at tills. And then as time goes on, they're using them less and less, and then not using them at all in some cases. And when you check back in to say, you know, how are you feeling? Are there any more accommodations you need? They say they adapted to the noise level and they're more comfortable and more happy with it now. But the accommodations may change. There may be something that they need further down the line, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's excellent, guys. Thanks so much. Sorry, I just noticed that we're running out of time, and we've got Dylan back in again, and we've loads of questions, so I'd love to be able to get to the questions too. Sorry to cut across, you know.
Thank
perfect
you
for that. Thank you very much. Dylan, are you okay there? You back
I
on?
think it's working, is it?
Yes, we can hear you anyway. So if you want to just fire away with your piece.
Okay. So hello everyone. My name is John Flanagan, and I was a student of National Learning Network Waterford for a year. So before attending, I knew I wanted to do a course after secondary school, but I was not sure if I would handle the workload of a higher level course or be able to secure a job to support myself. I was worried about what could happen to me if I immediately went into a job or a higher level course. I asked myself, would I be left behind in that? So I told my guidance counselor about this, and she suggested to go for an induction week of the retail sales and reception skills course in NLN Waterford. The week began with a 4-hour induction process. The class days themselves were well paced, never been too stressful or tedious with plenty of work to do, and the social hours of Costa and the gym were great introductions for getting to know my peers. Then I started the course in September of last year, and it was a very enjoyable experience overall. It really pushed any worries and stress about the future away. So instead of asking, would I be left behind, I asked throughout the course, what could I do next? The course itself was engaging, with plenty of course material ranging from guided lectures and assessments to help me learn more about what was involved in running a retail business, as well as expand my knowledge into Microsoft Office applications through self-directed learning on the Skillsbox website. I appreciate that I was not given too many assessments as well, as I had struggled with exams, especially during secondary school. So to be continuously assessed throughout instead of that was of great benefit, reducing my levels of anxiety around work. The work experience in Mr. Price that I received from the course helped me gain important practical experience in daily retail skills. and tasks such as calls and Pythons, as well as help me secure a part-time retail assistant position. The level of support I was given from the other staff helped encourage me to succeed, and the flexibility given from the managers really assisted with making the job feel tailored to my needs, which elevated any worries I had as they were needs to be sorted. I also found the Kawa Autism Services very beneficial, as they guided me to several opportunities from the one-to-one sessions that helped me in terms of my personal and career development, such as building more confidence to take public transport, as it's been discussed before, and find opportunities in creative writing. The photography group made me gain more proficiency in photography, which is a skill level I love to use. And routine social events helped me make new friends and build on existing friendships further. It also encouraged me to become less anxious of challenges, as it was something I did not cope well with in secondary school, and also find work for myself, as I had struggled with my sense of confidence previously. Now I'm going to the Warford College of Education for a journalism course, in which I have been able to organise work experience with the Munster Express, where I will continue to work on my career writing skills to publish my own news articles and continue the Mr. Price position for the time being. I highly recommend the course and the Car Autism Service for anyone who is able to go, as it has helped me find myself after secondary school and has led me on to getting opportunities I would have not found or struggled to find elsewhere. So if anyone is struggling with education, careers, or anything else, I would highly suggest contacting the National Learning Network service near you, as it could help build on any skills you want more experience in before further education or university. And if you have been out of education, you can find more opportunities than you may expect, as well as improve your proficiency in work skills and help boost your confidence in any life skills you may struggle with. So that's it. So like, if anyone wants to put any questions towards my speech, you can fire away there in the chat.
Okay, thanks, Dylan. Thanks a million. You got there in the end. So that was a little bit stressful for you there. Thanks so much. And it's a great story, and like going on to do something like studying journalism and working at Mr. Price, and just show you what can happen when you get the right supports in place. And we're very proud of Dylan. So I'll just go ahead, because I know it's dragging. It's an hour coming up, and there's a lot of questions. So I'll just fire these at whoever I think is appropriate. And thank you so much to all of our speakers for a start. So maybe it's Rita. Would NLN be able to help a young person with autism who cannot speak in certain situations, selectively mute and severe social anxiety? How would you go about helping them to join a class, work experience, if they cannot speak? And there was 2 or 3 questions like that, so I put them together.
Yes, Udall, thank you. Really difficult to speak to one particular potential applicant, but what I would say is that the pace that we take with students who might not speak in certain situations or have significant social anxiety, the pace that I spoke about that we say took with Jenny, for example, Jenny would not have spoken very frequently either. So building up the trust initially is what we would need to do there, and then gradually hopefully our lovely students would learn that we are a safe place to be, and that we will support them progress at a pace that is a pace that they can cope with. So absolutely, there are very kind and nurturing ways that we work with students. I could spend hours talking about it, but those students that are referenced there in the questions are applicants we could help.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much for that. And another one's either yourself or Anne-Marie. My son is very poor social skills, but very intelligent, soaks up information, all honours subjects, but just couldn't cope with university. Great attention to detail. Could you help him find a career?
So like Rita said, for individual, it's difficult to comment, but absolutely, we work with students who have university degrees and they're coming to us for some different areas. It might be a little bit of support you were saying around confidence building and about getting experience, or looking at other options and different pathways to work. So we'd say get in contact with whichever is our local centre to you and have a conversation, but it definitely sounds like something we could help. And I just wanted to come back on one other of the questions. We were talking about, you know, some of our students who don't use their voice to communicate. We would also, I suppose, support people in adopting assistive technology. So for some people, it mightn't be very high-tech assistive technology. It might be mainstream applications that are supporting and communicating communication. And some other of our students are also using more high-tech alternative and augmentative communication devices that they may have had when they were in school and are coming through with us, and we're all learning together on how best to communicate. So again, it's all very personalized and individualized, but there's also other ways as well that augment the person-centered approach.
If I could just come in as well to support what has just been mentioned by Anne-Marie, the way that we would approach assessing the needs and the wishes and wants of each person is done very, very carefully at the beginning of somebody's time with us, and that will help us plan accordingly and bring the relevant supports in. And if we haven't used something before, we will certainly learn about it, and whatever needs to be done will be done to support students.
Okay, great. Some for Mr. Price here. Do Mr. Price get involved in DSP job events for recruiting purposes? This is from someone from DSP and Swords.
Yeah, we absolutely do. A lot of those events are happening at the moment, so time can be restrictive. So sometimes there's a number of them on the same day. But if they pop us in an email, and we have the availability, we'll by all means attend.
Okay. Just someone had a comment for Dylan. I completely agree with Dylan. I'm currently a student with NLN Clonmel, and it honestly has done me the world of good for accepting my recent ASD diagnosis and adapting back into the world after COVID. So just a comment for Dylan.
Oh, thanks, whoever typed that.
Well, it was Emma Casey. Would LNN be able to advise a student who is in a transition year to secure a work experience placement, or would you have to enroll in LNN separately? Probably Anne-Marie, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, so work experience placements, when I talked about managers and how it's important that we work in ways that are safe and efficient and effective. So we can only organise work experience placements for students who are on our courses at that time. So I'm sorry, that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but if it's advice or if it's questions and you're interested in coming to National Learning Network as well, we can absolutely talk to you about transitions and pathways, but we can't organise work placements for students who are in transition year.
And what's the minimum age?
So the courses, when I talked about some vocational like retail and horticulture and those, they are the courses that are funded by the education and training boards. So we can start talking to students from 16. We didn't talk as a lot about our HSE programs today because there's a slightly different process, but HSE programs, you join us when you are 18. So we can start talking to students from 16 about participation in our education and training board programs, funded programs.
Yes, and we're very proud to be funded by the ETBs and the HSE as well, if I haven't mentioned that already. So if we have a student who I think would benefit from LNN, do they contact LNN directly? Yes.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Make contact and we'll...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there a time frame that you can support people if they need a very slow pace? Maybe it's more... Yeah.
Is there a time frame, Edel, for
people that can be put around people who need a very slow pace to support people? Yes,
we tend to take the lead from what the student needs themselves, and if there's if somebody is coming on to a HSE funded program, so if they're 18 or over, the pace can be absolutely as slow as needed. It could be a morning a week, it could be an hour a week to start off with, to get used to the feeling of the environment and the way that we operate. There's a slightly different way of working with the ETB funded courses, but we have very good relationships with our local officers, and we can negotiate different schedules for people to allow them to get used to coming to us and then eventually moving on to the full expected hours that they would participate on. But if we think about our lovely Jenny for weeks, if not months, just came to the building for meetings with me before she ever started at all. And once she was ready to start on her course, that's when the expectation sort of increased around the hours. So we build confidence before we would put any heavy expectation on somebody around full attendance.
Perfect.
Hopefully that answers that person's question.
So. Yeah. And then, what is the upper age limits of people that we accept in LNN?
65.
65. Yeah. Is there waiting lists to attend?
So it just depends on a program. Typically, you will be able to, if you're interested and if you meet the eligibility criteria, we will be able to start you quite soon. But it's all individual and based on the courses as well. So talk to a local centre, and all of those questions can be easily answered as well. Yeah.
Okay. Can you offer support to someone who's enrolled in a college course?
So there is some of our courses which are HSE funded, where some people have progressed to college and they're being supported there. So we do have instances where we are doing that. It is quite specific to certain geographical areas and courses. So again, make contact with us and we can talk about an individual case as well. And when I say talk about an individual case, you don't have to go into a lot of detail. It's just we don't expect anybody to go into details in such a public forum. So do get in touch with us and we can certainly talk to you about what that might look like and if that's something that is possible.
Great. My son is currently in 6th year. When should be contacting NLN for next year? I suppose now, really, isn't it?
Yeah, now would be great. Yeah, and I suppose the earlier contact as well, not just, it's more for the student as well. They've a little bit of time to come in and we can sample and they can learn a little bit about, and as they've questions, we can answer them as they arise. So yeah, if as soon as possible would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, any time. And Anne-Marie, did we mention our rolling intake? Did we mention?
I did, but it's always good to remind people, there's no school term start. We have lots of people who start, because remember, it's not just school leavers who start study with us. So we have continuous intake, start at times that suit you as well. So don't ever be waiting for that September start. Pick up the phone.
Absolutely.
Just to comment as well, well done to all involved in this initiative. Well done, Dylan, on your comprehensive presentation. Best of luck in the future. So best of luck there from Martina Hughes for Dylan.
Lovely.
And then how long would a participant typically stay getting support from NLN? Is it a period of years or less?
So the majority of our courses are within a time limited period. So yeah, there is. So it can be, sometimes it's an 18-month program, a 2-year program as well. Particularly for our vocationally orientated programs. And then we support people transitioning into their pathways, whether it's further education, higher education, or jobs. And then we will maintain contact when people move on. Just sometimes it's that little bit of just sustaining a little bit of progress that they've made for when they make that move. So yeah,
okay.
Time limited education and training funded programs.
I'll do 2 more questions because we're going to run out of time. Do you have to have a diagnosis to be accepted? I work with young people with suspected ID and ADHD, although no diagnosis due to lack of engagement with assessments.
That is Jade. Jade, will you stick an email in and we'll give a call back on that, because it's a long thing to go into in just a short period of time, but do give a call to us. We will be able to come back to you on that.
Okay, and as we said, anyone with any other questions, just give us an email on info@nln and we'll be happy to respond. And we will have a recording of this available as well, and the slides that people have asked for, and the audio working on our videos. So just to finish up, I want to say a huge thank you to all the work involved with the people, with our presenters today. Thank you very much. I think it was really informative. Thank you especially to Adele and Dylan, outsiders, who came in to help us. And thanks Rita and Anne-Marie. It was a really great session. And we will get back to anybody with any questions we didn't get to today. And thank you so much, everybody, for your time and your engagement and joining us today. And thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.